Okay, so basically I do very much disagree with dude's point. So I'll be having the game audio a little bit quieter throughout this thing, because just so I can like wait, video capture, display capture. Like people can hear better what I'm saying or stuff. So for starters, I created a PDF where I actually wrote down all of my arguments. And it's in my Discord. But I think I'm also gonna upload it in a way that like people on the YouTube video can watch it. Basically, as I say, I do. Welcome back, Ali. I do disagree with dude's ideas like a lot. I think what he suggests would actually make Splatoon a less fun experience. Even though I do understand that like his idea like are in good intent. So basically, what digital mixer? Wait, digital mixer of what? I'm using Voicemeeter Banana. So even the idea of picking composition before the game, I'm not fully sure about. But so I have four arguments that he is making that I would like to very much disagree about. So the first one is a best of 3 system would be fairer. In general, I don't think that a best of 3 or a best of 5 system for that matter would help at all. Oh my gosh, this is tough. I'm trying to make this argument while playing X-Rank. And I'm not good at X-Rank, just saying. That's actually kind of relevant to the perspective of my video. I'm like a semi-competitive player who is X-Rank in all modes kind of, but struggles sometimes. Then you could let people choose weapons before the match starts. I also think that might be a bad idea, actually. You should get more or less points depending on your performance in the game. I think is absolutely not going to work out, and would actually be counterproductive to the goal of like creating a more competitive game. By the way, how many points did I just lose? And the power levels should be visible in lower ranks too. Is also something that I don't think would be a good idea. Okay, but first I need to make sure that we don't. This is. Okay, wait, there's this ballpoint splatting. And the ballpoint splatting, nice. Should be in a position where it likes to run away from us. Oh, Zio, hello! So, why do I think that a best of 3 system would actually not be fairer? Basically, what you need to keep in mind if you think about developing any game on the Switch is that the Switch is a handheld system. So one thing you need to keep in mind is battery use. And you have that already where people DC because their battery gets empty during a match. Anybody who's ever held private battles on a stream, for example, knows about that issue. Where people just suddenly DC because their battery is empty. Or even like because their mom asked them to do something, or I don't know. You also need to keep in mind that people play games on handheld systems differently. So you would have to give people the choice to just quickly pick up the game, play around, and then do something else. That's how people play. How a lot of people play on handheld systems. Then. And yes, Raisin, I do agree that the whole issue of DCs and rage quits and stuff would also be an issue. I'm gonna come to that later. I also think that the competitive first attitude that oh no, okay, yeah. I mean, it's a -9 match, so it's not. I just got 19 points before this, so it's okay. But still, I think that the whole like competitive first attitude doesn't really fit Splatoon. I think Splatoon is a game that is supposed to be fun. And it's great that if you enjoy a fun game so much, that you want to compete with others. And I mean the whole ranked system does does kind of nudge you into that direction. And competitive Splatoon is a lot of fun if you find the right people to play with. But it's a game. It's not. This is not a sport. This is not school where you have to succeed in. This is a video game. And yeah, so I do think that the game shouldn't be designed from the perspective of a pro competitive player first. Though I do think that it's important to keep those aspects in mind. I think that there are some things they could totally improve. I'm gonna describe my own idea later. The other thing is like changing the ranked system like that. Like, it's a major change if you turn it from single matches into best of 3 or best of 5. And I think it's a very heavy-handed solution to a problem that only some people in the West face. So the big problem that dude is describing, and understandably so, is that he runs into matches that are extremely unbalanced, where, like, if you lose, he loses 25 points, if he wins, he gets 2 points. So, if he gets unlucky and loses a match, he's gonna take, like, 1 hour just to get his points back, and that's a problem. And I think that's actually a reasonable complaint. Like, that doesn't sound like fun. And in the flip side, for me, the same thing. If I run into a match where it's like a +0 match, like, I don't enjoy winning like that. It's not a lot of fun to win a match where you're guaranteed to win anyways. The problem is, like, the issue is mostly faced by top 500 players in the West. And yeah, that's like about 200 people of the entire player base of Splatoon. So yeah, it's a very heavy-handed solution. And I do think that the problem is less extreme in Japan, because in Japan, matches are more balanced to begin with. And like, that's something that kind of confuses me about Dude's idea, is that Dude, like, he suggests a lot of ideas to change the matches, but like, he doesn't actually bring any suggestion as to how to make them more balanced, which would be the easiest way to solve the problem, because that's like the core problem. So why not solve the core problem instead of designing around it? And I do think there are solutions to that. No! Oh no, not the clown. The Ricksmith sounds like it needs to copy Overwatch, arcade and ranked competitive. Pick which you want to play in. I actually, so here's another thing that you should know. I don't have a lot of experience with competitive games, actually. Splatoon is like my very first competitive game. So I don't fully understand how other games handle it. But I think Nintendo is very careful about making its game not too similar to other competitive games or competitive-like games. So the reason why I'm worrying about splitting between a casual and a competitive ranked mode is that, like, splitting the player base in 2 parts basically just makes it harder for both sides to find matches. I think it's the same idea behind, like, why Salmon Run, for example, isn't open all the time. Though I think they should actually open it up. But yeah, it's a very risky approach. And since we are already struggling to create balanced matches in higher ranks, cannibalizing the player base even further might be very risky. Overwatch is region-based. Okay. But yeah, I will be presenting an idea that would make it easier for casual players to play ranked. Because that's what I think we need to do, is get casual players who may be intimidated by ranked to start playing ranked and to try it out. And maybe they will enjoy it so much that they play more Splatoon and maybe even get into higher ranks. Okay, but then, like, the next argument, to get further in my list of arguments, I also think that Dude's approach is extremely unpractical, simply because of DCs. And I mean, DCs aren't just Nintendo's fault every time. So one thing I mentioned is battery life. Also, since this is a handheld console, people are playing with sketchy Wi-Fi sometimes, and maybe they're just moving around somewhere, and whoops, there's no Wi-Fi where they just went to. And yeah, that's another way how DCs can happen. Or they're just playing in a region where the internet is just plain unstable. Wait, I need to read up with chat in a second. Also, hey Shipwreck. Somebody said I agree with Zerkio, and I'm not sure what Zerkio wrote. So yeah, the whole idea of a ranked mode light, I'm not 100% sure how to feel about it. Because it does have its upsides. And I mean, we already have that problem about, like, where people start playing Smurf so they can practice a weapon. Me included, by the way, I also have a Smurf account. Snowpunk's son. She's very cute. Very adorable. Oh, no! Take my ink mines. So yeah, the whole DC thing is a huge problem, in my opinion. Wait, where are we? Okay, I don't really want to pick up the power climb right now. Okay, there we go. Whew. I get why people are saying the game is for fun, but competitive people being competitive in their game, ideas to fix it is what they find fun. Yeah, that's true. I mean, what I enjoy about this game is, like, competing with others. Like, that's true. It's just that, does it represent the large majority of players? I don't know. Like, the thing is, a best of 3 system would make it more fun for, like, a very small group of X-rankers, or it's more some X-rankers, but that's it. It would be limiting to most other players. But yeah, the other thing is that the other point that I basically want to make is that it doesn't, like, the whole best of 3 thing, it doesn't achieve what it wants to achieve. Like, this is not like some trade-off situation where you trade better ranked experience against the spirit of the game or something. The best of 3 system just simply doesn't work to alleviate the problem. Because one thing is, if you are in a best of 3 and the teams are unbalanced, then you will have to fight 3 unbalanced matches. So like it's the same problem, just multiplied by 3. And I do understand that what Dude wants to do is basically have people wait longer so the matches are more balanced. But the thing is, like, since you already have longer matches, like that already makes the waiting time longer. And then you want to have people wait even longer so matches are balanced. And at that point we're talking about like waiting times of like 5 or 10 minutes. Which in my opinion is like super bad on a game on a handheld console and a game as fast paced as Splatoon. And that's also where I think the trouble with the let people choose their weapons point comes in. Because you have the long waiting time, and then you also have to have the waiting time where people choose their weapons and all of that. So yeah, basically the problems you have already, they would just be multiplied by 3 and that's it. And I do understand, like this example that Dude gave, where like he lost a Rainmaker match due to bad luck, and then lost so many points that he had to get back. The problem is, imagine something like that happens to you in the best of 3. Like, imagine you end up losing 2 matches due to luck, which is possible. It's less likely, but it is possible. But basically your rank is screwed then. Like, you will have to play for, like, if before you had to play for an hour to take it back, you will have to play for, well 3 hours now. And that's a problem. They should let people choose weapons in queue. My idea is actually kind of the opposite of that, but we will get to that in a second. Basically, I do have an idea that in my opinion completely solves the issue of unbalanced teams. But it's not any best of 3-ish idea. Oh no! So yeah, the lobby waiting times would be pretty bad, and would, for many people, especially handheld players, would be unacceptably long. And yeah, especially if you want to use the best of 3 system in lower ranks. Like, imagine a new player who would just have to wait 5 minutes for a match to start. That's pretty extreme. And I do think that one thing that is important... Oh, nice. One thing that is important is, like, get new players to try out ranked and give ranked... No! Give ranked a chance. And you don't do that by having them wait 10 minutes for a match. Have they balanced team by what weapon type they use? They do, and I will be talking about that later. Next point is... Just a second. Yeah, Splatoon already has a more effective version of this, basically. So, if you... Oh, wow. If you look at the teams that you're fighting with throughout multiple matches, you will notice that, like, it's not different teams every time. Like, there is actually some kind of lobby where there is some constant... Like, some players are constant throughout multiple matches. Where the game basically just shuffles around players to find out, like, which players have the largest variance. Like, switching around which players causes the result of matches to change. Which is also how I, by the way, in my private lobbies, find out who is stronger and who might be weaker. Bam! Remaining 11. So yeah, they already kind of have that. What we're having is already sort of similar to a best of 3. Just that at the moment every match counts. But yeah, if you wouldn't count every match, you would still have something. You basically just have the same thing multiplied by 3. And again, if the matches aren't balanced, it doesn't help anybody. Oh, I can't believe we didn't take the lead there. Okay, give me a second for my inkjet. Oh, no. And then keep in mind that, like, you guys know how netcode and Nintendo work. Like what you're suggesting is already... It's a very... So unfortunate. How many... It's a -11 match. What you're suggesting is a very, very complicated idea where, like, connections have to be kept over 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I just plain think Nintendo isn't capable of doing that. And if they try it, there will be even more DCs, and it's gonna be a mess. And if you are in a team composition that you're not enjoying, for example, let's say you have a teammate that plays a strategy that you really don't like. Like, for example, I really don't like it if teammates run back the Rainmaker in the last minute. You'll be stuck with this teammate for 3 matches. At least the way it is at the moment, it shuffles around the teammates, so this person might be on the opponent's team next time. So, which is actually really great. Like, for example, even if there's a game thrower in your team, that game thrower might be on the opponent's team next time, so it actually evens out in terms of points, even though, of course, it's no fun. But as far as the ranked is concerned, it actually evens out, and that's super cool. And yeah, the last point I would like to be making... Oh, Moose, thank you for... I'm sorry about the phone battery, but thank you very much for being here. Also, I think I should answer some questions or, like, comments. Yes, we're talking about Dude's video. And Kosha, what do you think about the general rotations? Should just alternate between Turf War and the other modes? Oh, I see. I see. But then... Like, newer players would probably be super confused about the other modes, right? Like, Turf War is super easy to understand, but then suddenly, like, imagine you just want to play some Splatoon and suddenly it's Clams. Like, that's pretty brutal. So no way. I do like this game having, like, Turf War and stuff. They should just hide X-Power. What would that change? Oh, I mean, people couldn't be frustrated about their power anymore if they don't know their power. I mean, that's what they're doing in the lower ranks. So, and I mean, it does kind of make sense in the lower ranks because you don't want the new players to see all the problems that the game has or the issues of the system and just let them have their fun. Because I mean, if they're lower level anyways, like they don't notice what's happening around them. They're just potatoes who are happy if they can turf the ground without dying. Oh, wait, there's sploosh. There we go. But I won't be able to pick this up, sadly. What incentive do you need to play a game you enjoy? I mean, getting points at the end of the match. It does feel nice. And I do like getting the feeling that I'm getting better. So that does make it very enjoyable, getting this feedback of you're getting better. Or you just beat a team that was very strong. That's very enjoyable. Okay, give me a second. No, not the sploosh. Oh, nice. Thank you, team. Okay, so the last point about why I don't think best of 3 works. Or best of 3 wouldn't be a good idea. I mean, it doesn't work anyways, but it's also not a good idea. Since your teammates, they matter even more in this kind of matchup. I worry about it being even more frustrating and thought-inducing. Like, imagine you have a teammate in your team that you think doesn't play well. Like, in the current mode, you would just see them on the opponent's team next time. But, in this mode, you're stuck with having them on your team. Okay, but now the next point that dude is making is you could let people choose weapons before the match starts. So there's this one example that dude is giving, where he talks. Oh no. Where he talks about like somebody playing Aerosplay or Sploosh in ranked. When does this bug? Oh, okay, there we go. And here's the thing about the power system: if somebody has a power of 2300 with, I don't know, if I have 2300 playing between blindfolded with my feet using the GooTuber, then me playing the game blindfolded using a GooTuber with my feet, I am just as strong as somebody who uses Kensa Shot Pro with all MPU, who has power 2300. If somebody has the same power as you, they're just as strong, and it doesn't matter which weapon they're playing, as long as that's the weapon they use to obtain that rank. So of course people should be able to play like whatever weapon they like, and like I'm kind of worried about there being too much pressure about which weapon they play. I mean, you can see right now, for example, I'm playing Glugas. I am a Gluga main, and I've seen people getting like salty and frustrated about like, I don't know, seeing somebody using Aerospray in their team and saying, oh my god, I have a thrower, this is basically over, when in actuality there are actually like Aerospray mains. So yeah, I do see a lot of potential for conflict there. And I think at the moment the game really profits from this low communication approach that Nintendo is taking without voice chat in solo queue, in terms of like low toxicity. But yeah, then I also think like it just takes a lot of time. And yeah, that's basically why I don't think, why I think it might not be a good idea. That being said, I mean, it's not as big of a deal as like the whole best of 3 thing. I think the best of 3 thing would cause a lot of damage, while letting people choose weapons beforehand, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, Observer is saying that's definitely a problem in Overwatch. Yeah, apparently it is. So then the next point is you should get more points or lose less points if you contribute more to your team. And that's where I would like to do a bit of an unpopular argument, because I think that's a bit of a perspective thing, and I think it's Oh, thank you for the follow. Wait a second. A cool guy at 360, thank you for the follow. Yeah, that's true, Kosha. It's also reactionary to the map combo. That's true. So I mean, the game already does that by providing only 2 maps in a particular rotation, and then you would optimally choose a weapon that you think works in that scenario. Unless you're like me and you're a one-trick pony, then you just play whatever flavor of Glugas you like. So, like, I feel like the entire idea of you should get more points if you get more kills, for example, like, it comes from the perspective of I deserve more credit for how I play. And one thing you need to keep in mind is that statistically it doesn't work like that. You if you are, let's say you're in an S+ match and you're an S+ 9 player and your teammates are all S+ 0. Your job in this match is literally to carry your team, and you're supposed to get more kills. Because that's why the average in your team is higher than S+ 0, because you're in the team. So your own power is already included in the balancing of the match. And like you shouldn't get like extra, you wouldn't get extra points for doing what you're already supposed to do, which is carry your team. So that's a little bit of an oddity in Splatoon when matches are unbalanced, like when players in between a single team are unbalanced. So some players are much stronger than others in one team. That one person just needs to carry. That's just how it works. And if you're not strong enough to carry a bunch of S+ 0 players, then that's where the game decides, okay, you're not strong enough to be S+ 9, because that's just your job in S+... What? In S+ 9. Oh, Elita, okay. And, like, honestly, I think this kind of... You see, there's this funny thing about humans, is that if people make a mistake, they tend to attribute it to the situation. Like, for example, let's say you have an exam and the exam doesn't go well. Usually, if you ask people, why didn't this exam go well? They say, well, I had a headache that day, or I couldn't study properly, or I was very tired that day. On the flip side, if you see somebody else failing at an exam, and if you see somebody else failing at an exam, and then you ask them, well, why did this person fail at the exam? Usually people just tend to say, well, I guess this person just isn't good at school. People tend to attribute mistakes they make themselves to the situation, but mistakes others make, they attribute to other players. So what ends up happening in a competitive scenario is that if you do a good move, or if you do a bad move, people tend to give the situation the blame, or, you know, the opponents, your teammates. Well, if you see teammates doing something you don't understand or that is weird, people tend to say, oh, my teammates are bad. And I think that's where the whole idea of I should get boosted for my play comes from. Because, yeah. I mean, it is frustrating if you see how you have more kills than your teammates and yet you're losing. But sometimes that's exactly how the balance works. And, yeah, I kind of... There's one word in English that I'm really looking for right now that I can't come up with, sadly. Attitude, that's what I was looking for. I mean, I understand how, like, there are valid reasons for the whole, like, rebalancing stuff, and the balancing in Splatoon isn't always fair, and it can be very frustrating. Which I will explain later. But, yeah, oftentimes I just feel that that maybe it would be a good idea to just, like, reconsider your attitude towards the game. And, maybe focus more on the mistake that you have done yourself than your teammates. Because yeah, maybe in a particular match you were supposed to be the person who gets all the kills. Like if you, for example, look at anchors and backliners, like chargers usually they're not supposed to get a lot of kills because they're just supposed to be anchors you can super jump to. So like everybody has their different position, their own position in a team, and yeah, that isn't necessarily represented in numbers. Also, Omar, thank you so much for being here. And I'm sorry I can't make it to your stream at the moment. I want to play Final Fantasy XII too, and I don't want to be spoiled. So I'm looking forward to your next Splatoon stream where I can finally watch your stream again. And yeah, see you, Omar. This match is crazy. Wait a second, this is a plus 21 match. We nearly got 21 points for this had we won. Web. So the way the power estimation works in this game is basically, let's say you have one true power. Let's say your actual power is 2100, and with the matches, what happens is if you are up against, if at the moment you are estimated lower than 2100, then you're more likely to win matches that you weren't supposed to win. So you get more points than you lose. And if you are estimated above 2100, the opposite happens. So basically, you have like a little bit of a convergence. You always end up flipping above and below the 2100. And the game actually has an internal system where it tracks like its own uncertainty about your power, and over the month it actually gets smaller. So basically, your power is supposed to converge against your true power over time. However, the problem is that Splatoon doesn't really do a good job at that because the matches are so unbalanced. It's just that like giving more points to people who feel like they deserve it, like such as like if they have more kills, it doesn't really help there. And neither does the best of 3 system, because it would just like, I mean, yeah, it just multiplies everything by 3. Then the last point that dude made was the power levels should be visible in lower ranks too. And that doesn't sound like fun. Like, let's just say it like that. Like, I mean somebody who just starts the game, they want to have fun. And I think hiding the number makes the game less stressful. And I want starters to ranked or to Splatoon to be as unstressed as possible. And I mean, I think many people would disagree that that X rank can be very stressful because you're always looking at your points. So Lethal is asking, would you be opposed to raising the threshold to 2100 in X rank? I think the reason why the threshold is the way it is right now is simply because of the player numbers. It's the player number that is necessary to keep a decent matchmaking speed. If it is possible to create an extra rank while still keeping matchmaking alive, they should totally do that, in my opinion. I assume the reason why there are so many different powers in X rank is simply because of the number of players. Another thing is that it makes the game needlessly more complicated for new players. Like, I would really like new players to be like the game should hold their hand, and numbers just don't do that. Also, the rank system, the ranking system in X, it's very unforgiving, and that's just not how the lower ranks should work. Like, I'm fine with somebody being in B rank when they actually don't deserve it and should be in C rank, because I mean, it's B rank. I mean, come on. It's like, especially the lower ranks, I think we should focus more on just people having fun. Because I mean, if you don't have fun in B rank, then why are you even playing until you're X rank? And yeah, overall, I like Splatoon's approach. I think they're doing that on purpose, that they are designing the game in a way where newer players don't hide the crooks and, how do you call it, crooks and crannies of the game. For example, new players wouldn't notice when there's a DC in the game, and they don't notice about unbalanced matches. So every game feels kind of even to some extent. Nowadays, when I play C- on my Smurf or B rank on my Smurf, is so frustrating because every single match had a DC. Back when I played originally, I just didn't notice that. I thought, okay, well, I need to get better and then it's gonna be alright. And now I'm noticing, okay, I've gotten better at the game, but the DCs are still making it really hard. But yeah, new players, they just don't notice that, and that's, in my opinion, that's actually a good thing. Because otherwise nobody would continue playing the game. And we don't want that. So, yeah, I would... That's basically what I think about Dudes, like the problems that I see. Basically, the big problem is that it doesn't work. It doesn't cause balance, it doesn't cause fairness. And that's my huge overarching point. However, I do have an alternative idea about how it might actually work. Oh, okay. I mean, I'd be losing 4 points if we lose this match, but still. Okay. Wait, I'm gonna be so dynamo. Oh no. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So, first, what you need to keep in mind is there are 3 types of balance that we want to achieve in a match. We want to have balance between teams, that both teams in a match are having a similar amount of power. We want them to be equally strong. The other kind of balance we want is we want the players in each team to be similarly strong. So we don't have that kind of scenario where like one player is actually expected to perform better than the others. And then the last kind of balance that we want to achieve is weapon balance. Because it would be unfortunate if you have like 2 similarly strong teams, but one team is playing with a completely crazy weapon composition and therefore has a lower chance of winning. Because then you would lose points even though... Like, you would lose more points than you deserve to lose. So that would actually be unbalanced. So that's why weapon balance is so important. Because the whole algorithm, like, it doesn't really keep that in mind for your average power. Wait a second. I mean, we're probably gonna lose. Okay, yeah. So when the matchmaking happens, what the matchmaking tries to do is it tries to find, within a reasonable time, what it tries to find is a match of players where the latency between players isn't very high, the weapon balance is given, and the power balance is somewhat given. And if you look at how the teams are balanced in matches, you can see that like there's actually a very strong weapon balance given. Like oftentimes you can really see how some weapons mirror each other in each team. And what you can also see is how oftentimes you get stuck into lobbies where there are other players who play the same weapon as you, because that's how the game attempts to make it to keep the weapon balance, basically. And that, of course, on the flip side means that players with a similar strength are split into different lobbies, simply because their weapons don't match. So you couldn't put them into the same lobby because otherwise you would have a unbalanced weapons, and that would mess up the entire like power system. So my idea is if we can find a way that we only have to focus on the power balance and the latency and the weapon balance basically come for free, then we could do way more balanced matches in terms of power. And yeah, to achieve that, I have 3 ideas. The first one is the option of alternative kits. So basically, what in my opinion it should be possible is that when you go into a ranked battle, you do not only choose a kit that you want to play with, but you can also choose an alternative kit. And then during the process of matchmaking, the algorithm can decide which kit you should be playing so that it would be a fair match. So that's why I've been kind of dodgy about the let people choose the weapons at the start of the match. Because I had this idea of let the algorithm basically create weapon balance like that. So to not overwhelm new players, what you could do is basically, after you've reached level 30, you unlock your first alternative kits. And that way the algorithm could just focus more on player power than on achieving weapon balance. And another upside of that is that you would... You're not a fan of the algorithm choosing your kit. Yeah, I've heard that. The thing is, keep in mind that like the kit itself, you are choosing yourself. The algorithm just decides which kit of those that you have chosen is better, and you're not forced to choose an alternative kit. If you feel like you want to play with a specific weapon, then that's totally okay. The nudge is that basically the game says that if you have an alternative kit and your weapons that you choose are reasonably different, that you will find matches faster. And some players might decide that that's worth it, and some players might decide it's not worth it. No, not choose your sub and special. You like choose your weapon and your gear. Oh, they have a DC. Yo, plus 20 points, let's go. Probably plus 20 points, but yeah. So it is very much optional. But if you think it makes sense for you to choose an alternative kit, then you do have the advantage of finding matches faster. The other upside I see on that approach is that players are enticed to play a larger variety of weapons, which is ironic coming from me because I'm a one-trick pony. But I actually do think it's better if players are able to play multiple weapons for competitive play, actually. It makes it easier for players to join competitive teams if they can play multiple weapons, because that's usually, like, that's one big deal that causes players to not be able to join a team, is simply because their weapons just don't match. So, yeah, no, I mean that solely for ranked. It's ranked only. It's not in turf, not in league, not in private. It's just for ranked. And then the next idea, wait a second. I need to scroll actually, this is on the second page. So now that weapon balance kind of comes for free, we have to figure out latency. And I think one idea for that would be to reward players with a better connection. So I think many players, they simply don't know that their connection is bad. And what you could do is that people who have a stable and good connection, during the matchmaking, it should give you a little window that just says, hey, your internet connection is really good. That's awesome because that will make the game more fun. And then people will try to make sure that, like, once they see that that's a thing, they will want to figure out under which circumstances they get this message. And figure out how they can make the game work best. And then on the flip side, if somebody has a really bad internet connection, I think we all have kind of noticed that the game is really lenient with letting people with bad connections play. And it kind of does make sense when you think about how Nintendo really wants everybody to enjoy the game. But I think for higher ranks, there should be, at some point, there should be some limit. So I think, yeah, you could make it so that if somebody has a really bad connection, and the limit for what is considered a really bad connection should become a little bit stricter for higher ranks, then like it could just say, this is not your time to play right now. However, for lower ranks, I totally agree that like everybody should be able to play, because that's, in my opinion, that's very important. And then the third change, I think, would be very useful. So we already have, like, basically the idea is that if people have better internet connections, then longer distances are less of a problem. Because, I mean, in the end, the latency between the US and Europe, for example, is like 100, 200 milliseconds at most. And, like, if you experience ranked matches, usually, like, those kinds of differences, like, that's a lot still. But it doesn't matter that much in Splatoon simply because of the way the game is designed. And we are already playing with that kind of latency simply because people have lag. The other change I think would be helpful is if we got more players to try out ranked. Because of course the more players are actually playing, the easier it will be to find even matches. You can see that if you look at the situation in Japan. Like the entire discussion we're having right now is very EU or West-centric if you think about it, because in Japan, if you watch Japanese players playing, like they can be top 500, they can be the best player. They still find decently even matches simply because there are so many other strong players around them. And of course, if we could create that kind of situation for ourselves, that would solve a lot of the problems. Now the question is, how do we do that without like Nintendo upping their, I don't know, advertisement fund or whatever? And what I think might work if you get people who are at the moment only, I have a top 5. Yeah, it's a +3 -22 measure, so that's what I'm talking about. Those aren't that much of fun because it's kind of, there's a very high chance that we win and it's not a lot of challenge. If you get people who at the moment like are very shy about playing ranked because they worry about it being too tough, if we get those to try out ranked and maybe they will start enjoying it, I think there's actually a very strong player base that we're missing right now. I know a lot of people who say like they've only started playing ranked at level 60, 70 simply because they were intimidated by the idea of ranked matches. And I think if we get those people to try out ranked, and maybe they notice that they enjoy that way more, because honestly, ranked is so much fun. If we get more people to try it out, I think there would also be a way larger player base at the end, because at the end of the day, all of those X-ranked players or higher ranked players, we all start out as C- people who just want to try out how the game works and how those ranked modes work. And yeah, that's why I think the game might want to implement better mechanisms to get those new or shy players to participate in competitive play or in ranked play. Yeah. We've been having a little bit of a discussion about like competitive versus fun play and stuff. And so my idea is like I have to admit the idea that I have is a little bit of it, like it's way more radical than the other ideas that I had. But what I think we could do is step 1, scrap C rank and scrap B rank. And instead, oh no, it's another DC. Instead, you could implement starter ranks. So that would be the rank starter 1, starter 2, starter 3 and starter 4. And once you have passed starter 4, you get directly sent to A rank. And the way it works is that in starter 4, everybody plays zones. In starter 2, everybody plays tower. In starter 3, everybody plays Rainmaker. And in starter 4, everybody plays clans. Because I think just playing zones would make for a way more gentle introduction into the ranked world. And since the rank is called starter, you also kind of know what to expect. And you know that the other players aren't that scary. And you can also implement like special features such as like the game could inform you about like where is the objective. Something that might be a little bit unfair in higher ranks. But for example, what could be like that the game points out for you where the enemy basket is and like shows you the way or stuff. Or reminds you that like you actually have to paint the zone and not just paint around it for like super starters. I remember when I played Rainmaker for the first time, what was really helpful for me was this do not retreat message, because that made me understand that that I actually have to go forward, because I mean I had no idea. Like I didn't know if I should push the forward to our side or to their side. But when I would move it to our side, it would say do not retreat, so I understand, okay, wait a second, I should push it forward. And yeah, in those starter modes, it could give you more hints like that. Or like if you throw the power clamp in your own basket, it could say wrong basket, here's the real basket, and then point you to it. And then of course the other upside is that especially for Clan Blitz, people who play Clan Blitz already have gone through three ranks. So they will be less distracted by the mechanics of the game, and therefore will have less trouble with understanding the admittedly more complicated play mode. So yeah, that's basically, I think that's basically it. And I hope that that would get more players to try out ranked. And yeah, that's my idea basically. So yeah, I got through it. 1 hour 15 minutes. Now back to Splatoon. I just got killed. This is supposed to be a +3 match, guys, but we're not even. And they have a DC. Oh yeah, I forgot one thing. Apparently, what I wrote down kind of sounds like a good idea actually. For each starter rank that you beat, you also get some nice gear. Just give it some collectibles, some achievement system, so that it feels more like part of the game. For those who were only looking at turf and salmon at some particular point. Like salmon run tutorials, you're forced to learn first. It's similar, though I do think it's okay if you just rush people directly straight into an actual online match. I just think that it needs to give you some advice while you're playing. I think Nintendo's very proud of having a game that you can play without any tutorial. But I do think like giving them some advice while playing the starter things would be helpful. And I also think that should be easily implementable in terms of coding. Because like you don't need any complicated AI to know if like you threw the basket at the clam at the wrong basket, or you're only in your own spawn painting or something like that. So it could help you out with that. Also, hey Laura, how are you doing? I've just been talking for an hour about how to improve ranked gameplay. Oh yeah, right, Laura, you saw my file. So yeah, what I should also mention, I actually created a PDF file of like all of my talking points, and they're on my Discord. So if you want to look those things up, then yeah. Same goes for those people who are watching on YouTube. I will find a way to make this available. Oh no, Lara, so sleepy. I was playing turf and I was pretty much on par in the 1v1 with an X-rank player. Awesome, awesome. I mean, if you're level 47, like that already does give you a lot of experience. Also, 8-bit Fabi, I hope to God they change the point system for the next Splatoon system game. What do you mean by point system? Does that make sense? I mean, it can. You also need to keep... Oh, it's another unbalanced match. Okay. Well, the phase, the emote does make sense, though. For some reason, like, I've had days where I was, like, super good on Squiffer. In Turf War, but in ranked modes I would still like super die. The Splat 1 point system is actually cool. What's the difference? I've never played Splatoon 1. Like, I do understand that Splatoon 1 doesn't have X rank. Lose a match -10, win a match +10. Oh, okay, I see. And is it always the same numbers? Because I mean that does make the balancing very hard. Because you're basically... Like, imagine you would be playing an extremely unbalanced match. Then you would be unfairly losing a lot of points. Oh, no. On the other side, of course, like, the more balance you're able to achieve with other approaches, the less of a problem that becomes. So if you're able to have balanced matches most of the time, then you could do it just straight like that. Had fixed points, okay. So it gave you the impression of balance, even though there sometimes wasn't. Oh, Laura, you've got a new weapon that you like. Which one? So that kind of comes to the argument that I mentioned where, like, especially for newer players, I think it's okay if you hide the complexities of the system. I do think so, though, that, like, for people who play the game a lot, like, I wouldn't be very happy if I lost a match that would in Splatoon 2 be considered a -0 match. And if I would still lose a lot of points for that. Normally be placed in lobbies with people who have the same rank. Ah, okay. But I mean, that's like Splatoon 2 is kind of doing the same thing. Like usually if you're A-, you're still in A- lobbies, or mostly A- lobbies. But there are some A and A+ people, that's true. You love the Kensa sloshing machine. Oh, yeah, that's a fun weapon to play. It used to be extremely, extremely popular. And I think it still is a lot of fun to play. I think my window's actually still open. Just realized. Can I? No, I can't. This Undra person got me. The ranks jumbled everywhere in regular ranked lobbies. Can hide power for longer so users don't see such volatile point swings. So, I mean, what do you mean by hide power for longer? Because, I mean, they're already hiding an up to S+9, if you're talking about power itself. But, like, they could, for example, do a very simple system for, like, the starter ranks that I proposed. How about placements? Oh, I see what you mean, yeah, because the matches right after placement, there's still a lot of volatility.